This is Serengeti Sanctuary, a game designed by Edward John and Matthew Carter and published by Spooky Tower Games. It's a midweight family game for 2 to 4 players with a good solo variant as well. Lasts under an hour normally. So it's got a wildlife theme based on animals from the Serengeti, and it's a card drafting game. And each turn has 2 phases to it. The first phase is the drafting phase. That's when cards that are here in the middle of the play area are drafted by the players. It's a boomerang draft, so the first player gets to draft first. It goes around the table to the last player, and then they get a second draft, and then back it comes. So a total of 2 drafting actions each drafting phase. In a drafting action, you'll be picking up cards from the table. You have to pick up from 1 terrain type. So you could draft from this row to the scrubland, and you pick up these 3 cards here and put them into your hand. Now, there are other ways of picking up extra cards. There are ways of moving cards around. So the drafting part of the game is quite a skill in itself. At the end of the drafting phase, players will have cards in their hands, and then from the start player, you go round the table and have your expansion phase. And that's when you decide which cards to play, and that gives you points. There are points on the cards, and the points total ramps up quickly if you have bigger sets of certain animals, all the animals. You can use your points in 3 ways. Once you've got your score for that turn, and there are 1 or 2 bonuses you might get in addition to the cards, you add that score to your score on the main score track. So you boost your tally up on like that. And then you use the points you score this turn, not your new total, but the points you score this turn, to spend on 3 different things. And the first is if you've kept any cards back in hand, you have to pay a point to keep each card. That's handy for building a position later in the game. The next is you can buy sanctuary tokens, these tokens here. They're really useful in the game as well. And then the third thing you can do is improve or change your team. You have a team of 5 park members, staff. One of them is permanent, the park ranger here, always exists. And then the other 4 float, so they can change. You start with these 4 at the end, and you can boost them, change them through the game. But that does cost to promote them to a new role. So in the expansion phase, you've spent your points, you've accumulated score, you've done those different things. And if anyone reaches 50 points at any point, that's when the game ends. But normally it takes 4 or 5 turns. So just quickly on the different roles here, the team roles. Some of them help with your drafting phase. These ones here, they allow you to move cards around, do different things. Some of them help you build points, extra points, when you're working out your expansion total this turn, including on the victory track. So that's really handy. Some of them, one of them builds up gradually through the game. The others are sort of one-hit wonder. And then there are others which allow you to do extra things, maybe get an extra sanctuary token or draw extra cards from the deck. Or cycle cards. So a number of different powers there that are really useful as you build through the game. A couple of other things to mention. One is between each turn after the drafting phase, you clear off all the cards that are around the edge of the drafting area, not this sanctuary area. They stay, and they all get a sanctuary token added to them. So that's another really handy way of getting sanctuary tokens in the game. And the other thing is how the new start player is chosen. What happens is when the players have all accumulated their scores in that turn, the player in last gets to choose if they would like to be start player next turn. And quite often they'll take it, not always. If they don't want it, then it's the player next last who can choose, so all the way through. So in that way, you decide who's going to start the next turn. And the game lasts 4 or 5 turns. When someone's reached 50 points, their token comes around, they flip it over, and then the victory is adjudicated depending on who's ahead at the end. So that's Serengeti Sanctuary by Spooky Tower Games.